First question, why run?
I think this time I'm running a lot of times because of Ken Kalker's interview and report that he came across with the possible violations of the Opens Meeting Act. I think they had 10 years of them at least trying to skirt the laws of the Opens Meeting Act, which is pretty clear, and I think there's a voice of clarity and more of a transparency is needed in the city of Grand Rapids. I think we also see that through some of the issues we've had with the recordings, private recordings of the police department, that there's a really kind of a lack of trust that's brewing citywide in multiple areas and departments, and I think that just transparency and trust need to get rebuilt, and I'm hoping to bring that.
What do you think the biggest challenge facing the 3rd Ward and the city as a whole right now?
I think the 3rd Ward and the city as a whole, kind of the biggest challenge, which is actually kind of somewhat of a good challenge, is the expansion and also some of the issue of gentrification on the west side and somewhat on the southeast side as well. That you got new property, you got property development, which is good, but it also is pushing out some of these neighborhoods and neighbors that have been around in Grand Rapids for a while. And really, a lot of these people who've been in these houses for 20 years are getting kind of squeezed out, forced out, and trying to find an equitable solution for everybody involved. Also, I think we haven't had a chance to look at the pension funds that are woefully underfunded in the city of Grand Rapids. I believe it's about $300 million shortfall in our pension funds just for the city of Grand Rapids.
Day one priority if you're elected, hitting the ground running, what do you see as your first move as a city commissioner?
I think day one is probably definitely looking at the pension funds. Number two is I know they've kind of did some lip service on the Open Meetings Act, saying that they're going to change some of the reforms. My thing would be to make sure that that gets enacted. I think a lot of times my question is when people go out there and say, oh, well, we're going to change this, if we have the same people doing it, are they just saying it now and are they going to revert back to that process? It's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house. I mean, they did it for 10 years. They're going to try to get away with it again. And I think those are two of the main things. I think also looking at our budget as a city as a whole to some of the other areas that were some of the other counties and township levels, making sure our budget is well and that we're well set for the future.
What separates you from your opponent?
I think what separates me from my opponent is that I think that our judgment, my judgment, I think having a passion for the city and also going out there and being willing and listening to all sides and to everybody that's in the neighborhood. In the neighborhoods and going door to door, I see that every day that there's a lot of people that have legitimate concerns, that have legitimate questions, and they feel that they're not being listened to, not just by our city commissioner, but by a lot of city departments as a whole. One person who called me was a former city street planning guy. He was a retired street planning guy who did all the road construction, and he was talking about, he lives by 32nd Street, and he called me and talking about kind of the lack of planning that was on there and really kind of how dangerous it was because traffic flow was not really marked that well. And I think a lot of the times these departments heads now are not really looking to their people in the past who have had training or at least trying to go out there and continue that training.
Is there anything else you'd like to say that you'd like your voters to hear that we didn't talk about?
I think right now my main goal again is that community matters, and to just go back to that community feel that I know Grand Rapids has. I know Grand Rapids is a big town where you can have a lot of great things. It's very beneficial. I mean, what we've done with our healthcare, with the economic boom that we've had, especially in the last 5 years, has been amazing. But also we need to go out there and just I know we have that small town feel where neighbors help each other, and just to go out there and regain that trust. And I think that's my goal. I mean, even going back to the mystery project issues that we had about 10 years ago where people were looking for that golden egg right away of economic growth rather than go out there and just do steady growth, which is what we've done as a community. And I think that's just where we need to go, is just go back to the trust that people can have in each other and go forward.